how come immunity wasn't a variable that was factored in? How come there was no testing for immunity? Instead, there was PCR that was pushed quite heavily.
Well, the gold standard, I from my perspective, would have actually been, serious illness and disease. Sorry. So, actual hospital admissions, at least showing up to the emergency department because of it, or deaths. But because death is so rare, even in adults with COVID, even in the most vulnerable group, 70 plus with comorbidities, it's still rare. You can, they would have needed to increase that study enormously, from 40,000, they would have had to make it huge because they would have, just to get one patient who was sick enough to get in the hospital. Yeah. So, people have been in the background keeping track on the immunity system. So the US CDC has got a nice website where it shows the seroprevalence immunity to SARS-CoV-2 over time, because they were testing a cohort of kids to see if they had immune. So I know that was happening in Alberta as well, which is why I know that the number at the time coming through is sort of what it is. Now the number is like over 90% of Americans and Canadians have had COVID and have got, an immune response to that. But what's an interesting thing that's not getting a lot of play yet, but it will, because I know they're sitting on this data now themselves, because I've got a patient in the trial. But and this is validated by other labs also, but the more shots you get, the more likely that your immune response to the spike goes away. So one of the concerns with vaccine-induced side effects, vaccine-induced was vaccine-induced enhancement, antibody-dependent enhancement, but the other one was immune exhaustion. Like, you're pumping billions of copies of this thing, your immune system's got to deal with it at some point. When you keep boosting every 6 months, it just can't deal with it anymore.